You're listening to the Spend 10K a Day podcast, brought to you by the performance marketing experts at Mute 6. This is your source for cutting-edge insight into the world of online advertising from the team with more Facebook case studies than any other agency on the planet. Here is your host, Steve Weiss.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Spend 10K a Day podcast. Today we have an awesome guest who's joining us all the way from Huntsville, Alabama. We got Colin Wayne from RedlineSteel. He's the famous steel man. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
A long trip back from Europe. Good to see you.
Yeah, man. I was in Europe for the last, 2.5 weeks. I was telling you about the trip. I went to France, did some south of France, did some Italy, did a little Denmark, had some little Scandinavia up there, and then came back from London. But it's good to be back in the 110-degree heat of Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, it's good to just see you, man. I know over the past few months, me and Steve have connected, and it's grown from a business relationship to a very close bonded personal relationship where, we'll talk about things inside of what's currently going on as well as like personal. So first off, I just want to say, man, I cherish your friendship beyond anything. And, it's an honor to be a part of your podcast.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's an honor to have Colin. You have one of the best stories of any entrepreneur that I've worked with, man. I love for you to share, your story with the audience. I think that a lot of people, when they hear you out, it's gonna be motivational. It's gonna be like, you don't need to come from a crazy background to be successful. You've come from, the military. You've built something incredibly amazing. I think that, you can inspire so many people. So the reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast, beyond you being one of my closest friends, so when I talk to we text probably 20 times a day, and about business, about life, about entrepreneurship, but also, man, you inspire me, man. Like, when I first read about your story and just talking to you as a person, man, you inspire me, and I'm sure you can inspire a lot of other great entrepreneurs as well. So happy to have you on, man.
Yeah, likewise, man. So I'll take you back, brother. I appreciate the intro. I grew up in a split home, so my mom primarily raised me. I was emancipated at 16, so very, very young, emancipated, joined the military a few days after my 17th birthday, right after I got my GED. So my mom actually kicked me out of my house, and not because I was a bad kid. I didn't listen, right? At the end of the day, I'm very stubborn by nature, and I don't like to be told what to do or how to do it or when to do something, which is crazy because I excelled so well in the military. But I moved in with my dad, and there was an issue with like block schedule and 7 periods that it was going to hold me back an entire year. So I decided to go ahead and get my GED. I didn't want to be like 19 years old and graduate high school. So I went ahead and just pursued the military. I come from like a long lineage military background. So my brother, he joined about a year before I did. And he spent the last 13 years actually in the military. So he's a captain up at Fort Campbell. And is just about to transition out of the military into, I guess, some private contracting. Both of my grandparents served. I've got uncles on both sides. So just a long lineage of military history. I did almost 7 years in the United States Army as a military police officer. I was 23 years old, made actually staff sergeant. So I progressed extremely fast through that. And I think that kind of embodied a strong foundation or a core of who I am, and it's made me, I guess, instill those values and that grit to continue to evolve and like make my company into what it is today because of that military values. So one thing that I did was I was always looking ahead, right? I said that I made rank extremely fast. As soon as I was eligible, I was pinning, from specialist to sergeant to staff sergeant. I was always looking at like, what is this next step in order to rank up? And so I would volunteer to go to as many schools as possible. I would try to max out on award points. I volunteered to go to Egypt. I volunteered, change companies into a different battalion to go to Iraq so that I could, just continue to progress and pursue the military as a whole. So I really enjoyed my time in the military. And I really do believe that it kind of embodied this foundation of me as just kind of successful in anything that I touch. So I got out of the military on March 15th of 2013. I transitioned over into fitness modeling, and it kind of just fell on my lap. I don't live out in LA like you do. There's so much opportunity out there, but being from the opposite, instead of LA, I'm in AL, and so I'm in Alabama, and there's not so much modeling opportunity out here, right? But at this time, this was 2013, 2014, and timing is so relevant to everything that we get into. You look at some of the biggest companies like YouTube, it caught in at the perfect time. It was all about timing. There was a company 2 or 3 years before that tanked, that had a ton of funding, but it just wasn't the right time because of internet and load speeds and everything else. But I got in when Facebook was not having you to pay to promote your posts, and there was no algorithms, right? So this was back in like late 2012, early 13. I grew my page. I don't think you know this, Steve, but my Facebook fan page grew from 0 to 100,000 in 30 days.
Wow,
which is insane.
Just from posting, right?
Just posting. So I started to connect with other models that were a little bit established, but nothing crazy, right? I mean, they may have 30,000, 40,000 followers. And so it became kind of a network. And back then it worked tremendously well, where it wouldn't just necessarily be like share for shares. People used to do that back in the day, and it was pretty effective. But I would work, I'd do weird campaigns to help me grow, just thinking outside of the box. Like there's modeling pages. One's like Country Boys that had like 2 million followers. And I would do giveaways where they would have to like my page. And this was back like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? And so I would get 100,000 followers just off of one post. It was insane. So, but I say all that to say timing is so relevant, right? I just said that a few minutes ago. Now it is complete opposite. So fast forward to today, and you're lucky to have, 2 to 3% organic reach whenever you post. I mean, no more than 5 to 7%.
It just talks about, the ability to pivot your business on the fly based on the current climate of the industry. I think, Colin, you literally pivoted. You saw like immediately, you're like, wow, like organic posting is going away. This is not going to be here for a while. So I need to figure out and build the skill sets that's going to allow me to grow my business. And on top of that, you saw that at first you were the product, right? You were a model, man. Right. You were the guy taking pictures, and you're like, wow, it's only going to get me this far. Like I need to build a business and build, and have other products besides me. And I think, you built a great personal brand, and you kind of correlated that personal brand to RedlineSteel. And I think that's kind of like your story is really interesting to a lot of entrepreneurs, because you are the face of one of the fastest growing e-commerce brands online. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So it's crazy, man. So, I used that same, the social influence started, going to Instagram and Twitter and everything else. This was a while back. But I started landing big publications, right? And so I think all of this is relevant into the success of RedlineSteel, because I used a direct approach method without a PR firm, without an agency, without anybody backing me, and being from Alabama. That's a huge key point. Like, you don't have to live in LA to be successful. You don't need to be in New York City to be a successful model. Nowadays, you've got the social media, which is huge. And so as long as you can leverage your value of what you can bring to someone else, that's going to allow you to have anything that you want. So I got 6-figure contract deals to be like affiliates or ambassadors for different companies. And this was, nowadays, everybody's doing that, right? I mean, 5-6 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. So kind of pioneering that space and getting whatever I wanted. I did the same thing with publications. I reached out directly to them, told them, typically I'll charge, $3,000 to $4,000 per post, but I'll do it for you X amount of times, contributing a value of $15,000 plus. Instead of the publication paying me a talent fee, I wouldn't charge them. I never charged a publication. So even though I've been on over 50 magazine covers, what I wanted to do was attribute so much value that they want to continue to work with me, year after year. And so that was a huge offset, is because I know being on the cover of Men's Fitness and Ironman and Must One Fitness and Vanity and all these different publications, attributes value to you as a personal brand, and that's going to bring so much more. So it's always looking ahead. Just like when I was in the military, what's next steps? I want to look ahead beyond just a paycheck or, a $500 model talent fee to be on the cover, So I would pitch it in the sense that I'm going to attribute so much value, $15,000 worth of postings for you, plus no talent fee. So inadvertently, they're working with me for free, plus the value upside. And on top of that, if the photographer wanted to charge a license fee, I would pay that photographer so that they wouldn't have to pay at all for any of my usage.
That's really, really smart. I think that goes back to a good personal branding study, is that being very thoughtful and strategic. You saw right away that like you were one of the first influencers, quote unquote influencers. 5-6 years ago, you built an amazing following, and then you were thinking of it from a very strategic perspective of which specific publications can I offer free, content to that'll help grow my personal brand, that'll elevate me for my future. And I think not a lot of people are, if you are growing a personal brand, I'm sure you really need to be thoughtful about which people you partner with, because instead of charging them short-term dollars, you gain long-term value out just doing that deal.
Bingo. Yeah, it's value up front. Like, what can I do, to gain your trust, gain that rapport? Because, dude, I was on Ironman like 7 times. I was on Ironman a couple times a year. That's nuts. Typically, there's only 12 covers in an entire year, and I'm getting it 2 times on the same publication.
Free exposure. Like that's like, like who would want to be paid for that? Like, literally, I'd rather just do that for free.
I'll pay you, bro. Like, let me pay them to be on the cover.
Exactly, it's free exposure.
I love it. So that's what I did, man. And because I saw that I wanted to invest into myself, and I knew, just that forward thinking that there's so much other things that'll propel from that. So just being on all these major listings, I could now charge a premium to any of these companies that want to work with me. Like, what's going to offset me as an influencer from the other 1,000 people that are just like me? Maybe they have as many followers as me, but my credibility will speak for itself.
It's really smart. It's really smart. So literally, you conquered an influencer. You said, I'm going to build a personal brand. I'm going to get people to really want me to be the spokesperson and be the main thought leader of their brand. Then you kind of fell upon, the way you told me a story, you kind of fell upon this steel, these steel monograms. You kind of fell into this like in a weird way, which I think is really, really funny. Just that you're like a friend asked you to be a part of this company, and explain that story, because I think that's really interesting. How like you made yourself open to opportunity, and then opportunity came and caught you, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So except he wasn't my friend. I had no clue who he was prior to this. So I was working out in the gym with a good friend of mine, Colonel Neely, and he had I got a son. He's 7 years old, loves baseball. And so he was getting this piece done, and it was a guy swinging a bat, and it had his son's name engraved in it. And so I loved just the piece, but it resonated with me because I wanted it for my son, and I could have a personal connection to it because I know Carson would love this in his room. And so he told me who it was that made it, and I reached out to that company or that individual on Facebook. And he told me he was about 10 to 12 weeks backlogged, and that when he got caught up, he would give me a call. And at that time, he didn't have, I didn't go to his website. There was no retargeting or anything. There was so much missed opportunity. He reached back about 10 minutes after saying, "Hey, I'll reach back out since I'm so backlogged," and said, "Holy shit, it's Colin Wayne. I didn't realize it was you." And he ended the conversation by saying, "I can get it to you within the next, 10 days. And he said, "I'd love to be at your level one day." And dude, as soon as he said that, something sparked inside of me. I didn't skip a beat. It was literally, as he said it, I started typing back saying, "I can get you to that level." And I knew he wasn't talking about modeling. He's talking about success in general. Because at this time, I'd had pretty damn good success from an influence standpoint, as well as the fitness modeling, where I was making $300,000-$400,000 a year, basically doing nothing but working out. So I brought him into my office. I owned a consulting firm, and I made him an offer, but it took about 3 months to get to this point. I wanted to understand his business, the basic basically rewrite his entire business plan. But I wanted to partner with him because I saw so much opportunity. I said, I want 51% of your company. I told him why. I've got to be in full control, and I don't want to be slowed down because I'm very aggressive as far as growth. And I don't want to be just in a room and nobody can decide on what's the next step. But I said, I'll do 6 times revenue of what you did last year. And he was a 4-year-old company at this point. And if I don't, I'll give you back your company 100%. And I also said, I'll fund all of the growth that it takes to get 600% growth from year after year to hit this. I'll fund it, 0% interest. I'll own it and just amortize it. He accepted at that point.
Let me get this straight, just so the audience knows. So it's a steel monogram. The product. You know, it's a steel monogram piece of home decor. You know, your friend from the gym had one made for his son. You wanted one of these steel monograms for your son.
That's
you got
right.
introduced to the guy. The guy said flat out, like, I'm making these homemade. Like, I don't have enough time to make one. I'm like, I need more time, Colin. And you're like, and then you get on the phone. You're like, well, I love what you're doing. Like, you know, you saw something in him. You saw some energy in him, and you're like, let's sit down. Like, I like to be a part of your business. Now you got to the next point of like, now you're negotiating. You're like, I'm so confident in myself that I could build a business. Look at what I did. I'm going to offer you an unamortized loan to build this business. And if I don't hit these goals, I'm going to give this back to you. Correct? Just explain your thought process and the way you did that deal structure. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer of, you just put your money where your mouth is. I know my value and what I can bring to the table. I wanted him to be extremely comfortable with the entire deal. This is his baby. This is something that, it's more than just a mom and pop shop. It's not like he was doing, $5,000-$10,000 a month. He was about 100. Well, I'm not going to give out his numbers, but he was doing
small six figures.
He was doing okay. Small six figures, right? Okay. And so I believed in myself enough that I could scale it to that point. And if it didn't scale to that point, I knew that it's something I don't want to be involved with. So I would, litigate that risk by giving myself, a sense of urgency that I need to move forward and progress extremely fast, and also make him comfortable in the situation that now I'm taking over his company and I'm going to own it, at least 51%. But I just wanted to prove a point that, I believe in myself enough that this stranger who I met 3 months ago can move forward with me and believe in my abilities. And so I just wanted him to feel extremely comfortable in that. Now, I do also want to state, I had zero experience or background in manufacturing or fabrication. So, this was, all I knew is this is an awesome product, and I saw market opportunity. And I know, Steve, you and I, we talked about kind of blue ocean, red ocean market strategies. This was a completely blue ocean market strategy. So I don't know if you want to kind of define what that is to the listeners, or do you want me to? Or I think that may be a good point for
Colin, I got to be real with you, man. I don't really understand the blue and the red ocean.
Okay. Sweet, man. I'll explain it.
Explain. I kind of I probably understand.
I guarantee you grasp it, but it's in a different definition, or how they're
define exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so I came from the fitness industry, and fitness and sports supplements is a very saturated market. And so consider supplement companies, and I used to own one, Integrity Driven Nutrition, and we did pretty good. I sold it last year to a group in Texas, but that is a complete red ocean market strategy. And what I mean by that is, think of it, you're in an ocean and you have a ton of fish in the ocean, right? There's a lot of people within that vertical that would love to buy your products. But also there's thousands of sharks that are swimming that are cutthroat over $1 or $2. And so there's not a lot of market opportunity inside of that because it's so saturated. But you do have a ton of consumers that would be interested in that particular vertical. And then you can go into more like a black ocean, which is kind of like taking a red ocean and having, let's say it's going more distinctive towards maybe only vegan products, right? And so you're kind of defining those particular to not be so red ocean within sports supplements of protein, multivitamins, pre-workouts.
That makes
hundreds.
Sense.
There's tens of thousands of companies that do exactly that exact same thing. So what are you doing to distinguish yourself and offset it from somebody else? So consider Blue Ocean, just like RedlineSteel. We're a manufacturer that designs, manufactures, and fulfills everything internally. Our market opportunity is anybody that has a home or that has a friend that can gift it to somebody. And then also look at competitors within that space. Think of this as an ocean, and there's huge whales that are doing their own thing. Now, there's a lot of krill, there's a lot of fish inside of that sea, but you're not having to fight with the sharks. And at the end of the day, we big boy the sharks. They're not going to mess with us.
Yeah.
And so, it's just uncharted territories at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. All right, I get red oceans, a lot of competitors, a lot of sharks eating other little fish. I don't want to get eaten by the shark.
There's not a lot of margin. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're having to fight.
That's interesting. And I find what I found, like, just when I met you, man, like, and I know this is kind of crazy, just the way I was thinking. I was like so impressed with you taught yourself how to do manufacturing. You unlike most people who drop ship from China or you're like, you know what? I don't want anyone else to do this. I'm going to build a whole manufacturing company myself. I'm going to figure out how to take a sheet of steel and turn it into home decor. Here's a sheet of steel. I'm going to build a process with no experience and turn this whole sheet of steel into a piece of home decor. And I was like, when I was walking around your factory, man, I'm in Alabama. I'm a guy from Jersey. And I was like, wow, like that's, one of your guys, one of your boys I met, he's like building a car in the back. You built a team of just like right. Ingenuity, man. Just very, very creative, people who just literally figure out how to get things done. I think like that's the number one thing when I think of you, Colin, I'm like, wow, you just go out, you're a problem solver, man. I think a lot of other entrepreneurs can really take that from you. You're not an influencer, you're not a fitness model, to me, you're one of the better problem solvers that I ever met because you figure out how to build something literally out of nothing.
Yeah. Thank you, man. That means a lot. So that's exactly accurate. What I left out was a huge part. The guy I was going to partner with, he fell through. Right. So the business plan that was planned around this entire model that he's going to manufacture, and I'm going to come in here and help scale the company from a marketing and sales perspective. It changed in a matter of minutes. The day we were supposed to sign at my attorney's office, he didn't show up. Right. And so, that fueled my fire. I said, all right, I'm going to do it myself. I don't need this guy. Heck with him. I'm going to figure it out. I know enough. I believe in myself and my abilities that, just like you said, I'm a problem solver. It became a big problem, but I wasn't afraid to approach it head on. So I went and bought my first piece of equipment that I could actually cut the steel on. It's called a CNC plasma. And we used Dynatorch, which is the manufacturer that we bought it from. I had no place to put it, bro. Think about that. The business plan shifted, man. I can't put this in my garage, right? Am I going to park it next to my Ferrari? Like, what? I can't cut this stuff. And it's 3-phase. I need air compressors. I need like a forklift. Like, there's so much stuff that I need that it's in a matter of 24 hours, the business shifted. But at the same time, I was even more determined than ever to make this successful. And I think that drive or that grit to just say, you know what, heck with that guy, man. I'm going to move forward. And there's a reason why the universe aligned me to this point. I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to move forward because I trust my abilities enough where I believe in at least the product. Now, I don't know how to make it, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to hire somebody that can, or I'm going to pay for the training that it takes from the manufacturer to at least get up to scale. And so we got common friends, Steve, Dan from Grunt Style.
Yep.
So I reached out to him before I was a company and actually acquired a contract. And so I used that as initial funding for this.
Yeah, wow,
and it also took about 3 or 4 months for me to figure out even how to operate the table. So it was perfect solution where I had like 1,500 units that I needed to make for them. And I did it, but I had 90 days to make it happen. And so January of 2016, I launched the company. We didn't launch the website, RedlineSteel.com, until June 15th of 2016. So, we just hit 2 years last month, like 2 weeks ago.
Before we go into the numbers of, literally, which is mind-boggling of where you're at, I have this mental picture, man, of you. There's a computer, There's some steel on the ground, and there's like some random machines just rolling there. There's your computer where you're driving users. There's some steel, and there's some machines. And you just like put it all together. Like this is the ingredients of like success. It's just steel, machine, computer.
Yeah,
and that's all you need,
you have
man.
no clue how to turn it on.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And so dude, you've been in business legitimately 2 years, and like
my website.
The website's been up 2 years, and how last year you did how much in revenue? This year you're trending to do how much in revenue?
Yeah, so last year we did right at 10 million revenue.
First year, just steel, computer, and machine.
No, so for 2016, because remember we had 6 months on the books at 16, so we did we did 890,000 first year, so 2016.
Okay.
2017 we did right at 10 million. 2018, which we're in right now, we're projected to do 30 million. So massive growth.
So it just shows like there's no holy grail to being successful online or just even being successful as a person. You just really have to visualize however all the ingredients of what success looks like and just put it all together. I think that, I talk to you every day, man. Like you're one of the few people in this world that I know when you have great days, I know when you have shitty days. and I think like the reality is like there's gonna be days that suck as entrepreneurs. We talk about this a lot, man. Days that just
valleys, peaks,
terrible, like just terrible days where you like look in the mirror, you're like, what am I doing? Like this is like like why am I here? Like why am I doing this to me?
I have that talk a couple times a week.
It's like
it's gotten a lot better. The first year was that talk almost every day, but I still showed up and I made it happen. I didn't give up.
And I think like that's 9/10 of the game, man. I know we're getting a little bit off topic. I think that the story is you built a company from nothing. You had an idea that someone presented to you. They didn't want to work with you. You figured out how to manufacture this idea out of nothing, and you've built a business that's going to do $30 million in revenue, probably maybe even more than that this year.
Yeah.
And, what's the ingredients to get you there? You said it best, man, showing up.
Yeah, that's it. And believing in yourself and not giving up. I mean, just that grit to keep moving forward, even when you're going through hard times, man. I mean, there's, like you said, peaks and valleys. Like it's a roller coaster of like from physical demanding things where you're questioning your abilities to, now I'm having to figure out the supply chain on top of getting revenue in, on top of customer support issues, and fulfillment, distribution, manufacturing, product design. Like there's no easy route to this. There's so many moving parts that it's challenging, but I strive for challenges. I think I do better under pressure than I do if things were going fantastic. And I think that's why I call it like the Nick Saban approach. And everybody knows Alabama football, love him or hate him.
Throw Nick Saban in there, man.
Dude, he's a hell of a coach, man. And I think it's because of that consistency. You know what I mean? And you have a lot of this in you, Steve. It doesn't matter how good you're winning. If you miss a play, that's how you're only as good as your last at bat, right? Yep. So it doesn't matter what we did yesterday. Phenomenal. You did, we hit ROAS goals. That's great. Where are we at today? And what can we do to make that better so that we don't continue to trend down, right? And so just having that mentality that, we're always forward thinking, forward planning, and always trying to project higher than where we were like last month, instead of saying, hey, let's just maintain right here at this steady baseline. Let's try to, scale this, or what can we do to forward plan that? You know what I mean? And so that's what I love working with Mute 6. On a business relationship is that we're forward planning all the time. The communication, dude, I talk to your team at like 1 or 2 in the morning. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm like, man, do these guys ever sleep? And I know that's y'all are out in LA time, so it's later for me than it is for y'all. But dude, it's the amount of communication and the follow throughs. It's transparent that your organization is obviously somebody that cares about the welfare of at least our company, and I know that's transparent across the board with anybody you work with. So big props.
Yeah, and I learned that. Like that's something I learned in business is that you can't celebrate the moment. It's a bigger picture thing. It's literally, you look at everything 6 months from now, 5 months from now. Like the reason why, Colin, you work with a Mute 6 or any agency or anyone is that you want to know that they are going to evolve at the rate to provide the best solution. You know that like we're going to figure it, like whether it's us or anyone, we're going to figure it out for you. You count on us so much, and like, you know, we're going to evolve quicker because tomorrow might be different than today. In not just us, but in business in general, that you have to be able to evolve at a rate faster than your competitors. Because if you're not, if you're doing the same thing now, 6 months later, you're not going to be here 6 months later.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And that's why we connected. I mean, I think we have the same exact mentality. That's why, you know, I put pressure on my team to really always figure out what could we be doing. How do we forecast? You know, Facebook's a very unstable platform, so forecasting is very tedious. It's hard. And but how can we forecast what the future is going to look like based on what we see now? And I think there's a lot of learning there of just really figuring out how do you build projections on instability.
Sure.
Cool, man. Before we wrap things up, you know, we've gone through a lot, man. Like you talked a lot about just believing in yourself, and I think that there's something there that I think a lot of people don't really grasp. I think that, and I know like everyone wants to hear the secret to being successful and the secret to, you know, building businesses that do millions of dollars, but I think that deep down you got to love yourself. I think that's the one thing that I want to share with the audience of the importance of waking up each day and looking in the mirror and feeling empowered. And you're a guy that I know, man, like some days suck, but you know, you empower yourself, and you can't allow anyone else to empower you unless you love yourself and really believe in yourself. And how could other entrepreneurs kind of like get that empowerment inside? Like how, and I think that's something I think about a lot is like, how do you empower yourself the way you do, amp yourself up? Because that's so important to being successful. And I'd love for you to talk on that topic.
Sure, man. Yeah. So I think that for me, it's the circle of people that you're connected to and how you're embodied by them and their influence. So nowadays, everybody's so connected through social media that they can take everything and wear it on their sleeve. So if opinions or feedback from somebody that's not inside of that circle impacts you or it drives your opinion to either alter what you're doing or go against what you want to do, I think that's the first step that people can really resonate to is like, don't be impacted by their opinion. It doesn't matter. If you have a vision, and if you're a true entrepreneur, you have a vision and you know the direction that you need to go to get there. You don't necessarily have all the tools and everything in place, but you can't be impacted by somebody's outside opinion on what you're trying to do and trying to accomplish. If they don't resonate with what you're trying to do, push them to the side and just have thick skin. I think that's the best way that that's how I am personally. And that's why I think that it works so well is that, you know, there's been people that's questioned me when I got out of the fitness industry. I was booming, bro. Like I was on 2 or 3 magazine covers a month and I cut it off. I cut it off and started working, you know, for myself. I started this company. I had zero experience or background in it. There's a lot of people that were like, man, what the hell are you doing? Like, dude, you're on top of the world. Why would you want to go somewhere else? But I'm always looking ahead, man. Like 5 to 7 years from now, what am I going to do by landing another fitness cover? you know what I mean? Like, that's not going to do anything.
I didn't know you when you were a fitness model, Colin, but like, there's a part of me that can't just picture you being a model. You're not one of those idiots who just like look at me, I'm on a cover. No, you're pushing, man. You need something to get your head around, because if you don't, you're going to go drive yourself crazy. And I think there's a lot of people similar to me, man. I need complacency kills. Like I go crazy 100%. With complacency. Like if you do the same thing every day, you're not moving forward. Yeah, crazy. And you know, I think the one point that I think me and you share, like, you know, deeper than anyone, man, is like as both entrepreneurs, as people that like really care about our teams or really want to see growth, is that you have to love what you do. You have to love the people you work with, and you have to love yourself. And those.
That's good. Yep.
I'll let you.
That's better than what I said, man. I wish I would have said that.
No, man.
That's really good.
And like, that's what I love for everyone to take away from this podcast. This episode has been amazing. Just Colin inspires me, man. I get off a phone with Colin sometimes, even on shitty calls. I'm like, yo, let's do this, man. I'm like jumping up and down, and it's
mutual.
You know, we both roll we both kind of roll with the same flow of energy, and I think I want everyone to take that away from this podcast. Is number one, doesn't matter what people think. You can't control what people think, what they're gonna write. You got to be yourself. You got to love yourself. 2, you got to enjoy and love the people you work with. You spend so much time with them. Like, you got to really empower them to be better. That's what leadership is. And then number 3, you got to progress. You got to move forward, and you got to love what you do. And I think those 3 things, like, me and you share very, very tight grips on, man. And I'm so happy you came on the podcast, bro. You made my day.
Heck yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. All right, just wrapping things up. If you want to learn more about Colin and his story, check out his website, RedlineSteel.com. Colin Wayne. Take a look at him on social media. He is one of the more interesting people you will ever meet in this world. You're an awesome guy, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.